Arkham Asylum was a pivotal moment in Batman's history as well as gaming history overall. It was the closest superhero game to being what we could call perfect at times, setting an original story with famous voice actors, innovative gameplay that you didn't really see a lot coming from its generation, and a creative story written by experienced writers who already understood the character. All of this led to the perfect storm that was Batman Arkham Asylum, and what led us to get the rest of the games in the franchise and ultimately just a bunch of different outings. Hey everyone, it's Colin. Today we'll be going over how exactly Arkham came to be. So grab your favorite snack and get ready to take a trip through time with me as we go over this masterpiece. Now the background to how Rocksteady actually really got the license to Batman is kind of an interesting one. Just a few years before Rocksteady got approached to even think about a Batman game, EA had actually bought the rights to make a 2008 movie tie-in game to The Dark Knight. Don't know if you've ever heard of the movie before, it was honestly pretty niche.
I'm Batman. Don't talk bad about The Dark Knight.
Okay man, I was just joking. Everyone's heard of The Dark Knight. EA got Elevation Partners to create a Batman game themed around the movie. Elevation Partners ended up sourcing out to another studio named Pandemic Studios. And this studio was known for games such as Star Wars Battlefront. Pandemic was super excited about the project and got working on it right away. They got a prototype out so fast that it was before they received any information on the film itself. This prototype was on the PlayStation 2. They didn't even know what game engine they were going to use, as the game was going to be released on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 series of consoles. The demo they created was mainly around the city of Gotham and the gliding mechanics that Batman would use. The plan up until this stage of development was to make another linear Batman game similar to what came before it with Batman Begins. It wasn't until later in the development that the team actually decided on using the Odin engine to make a more open world and bigger game. The fact that this engine was designed for more open world play led Pandemic to shift their focus towards this open world narrative, and also they thought it would just blend with Nolan's universe a bit better. And at the end of 2007, the developers actually ended up porting most of their assets into this new engine, but this caused some unforeseen issues. And we're talking some major problems. Problems like if you even try to control Batman in this new engine, frame rates would slow all the way down to 5 frames per second. The more character models you added on the screen or just put other assets in, it would only get worse on the performance. This was causing many dev kits to actually crash and have several problems. And this inevitably caused the game to get pushed beyond the movie's initial release. Several members of the development team ended up quitting because of this, making it overall smaller and a longer process. But EA still held out hope and delayed the game. This was enough time to make the game playable, but the game still suffered from major mission bugs and other issues. Most of the current frame rate issues were actually caused by the game's lighting system, and that had to pretty much be reworked entirely, taking up a lot of time. It also didn't help that management kept making poor decisions that ended up having to be reverted to save the game. But once again, all these issues lined up for the game missing yet another deadline. To make things worse on top of that, the actor who played Jim Gordon revealed that the game was in development and actually talked about the specific demo he was shown. He was under the impression that it wasn't a secret, but actually gave an unofficial announcement of the game. This brought on the pressure onto EA and Pandemic Studios to get the game out even faster. EA expanded the team from 60 people all the way to way over 100. But it was too little too late. The game, like I mentioned, wasn't going to hit its December 2008 deadline to match up with the media release, so EA ended up canceling it in October of 2008. And that was kind of all we heard for years to come. In recent years, certain demos allegedly have been leaking online of gameplay, and people have been talking about the potential what this game could have been. But I'll get into the importance of this and how it ties into Arkham Asylum. What also happened in 2007 is that Eidos Interactive also got the game rights to Batman, and they actually went to Rocksteady Studios requesting their pitch for a Batman game. DC even approached Paul Dini and asked him what his take on a original story for a Batman video game would be like. This piqued Dini's interest because this hasn't really been something that had been done in the superhero genre before, or let alone Batman. Now, Paul Dini had worked on several Batman projects specifically, most notably being Batman the Animated Series. But all these questions led to Dini thinking in a specific way, because you couldn't make a traditional story around a video game because you gotta take in things like game elements, gameplay, story beats, what the player's gonna do. open-ended sections. There's just a whole lot more to it. The biggest challenge for Dini was making a story that maintained the quality of a graphic novel or movie, just in a video game format. Dini ended up meeting with Rocksteady to discuss certain ideas, and Rocksteady had already decided that they wanted the game to take place in Arkham Asylum. This would make it easier for Batman to be closed off from the world, be surrounded with enemies, and not find an easy way to go get help or escape. They had already known that the Joker was going to be a major role, and the story was mainly worked on after the gameplay mechanics were already set in stone. In fact, Rocksteady often had to chime in on Dini as he was making it too story-driven or based off of character motives, and that ended up clashing against basic mechanics for gameplay. Around this time, they also took inspiration from a graphic novel made in '89. This was called Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Rocksteady really wanted to make the games focused around Batman's gadgets and wanted to incorporate these in a Zelda-like or Metroid way, while also fixating on those key components that makes Batman who he is, such as not killing. Decided after development, probably one of the most important things was actually the cast and crew who would be voicing our members. And in this case, they ended up rehiring the main three guys from Batman the Animated Series. Mark Hamill actually structured his Joker on the art direction of the game, making him far more gritty than he had played before. Hamill also had far more voice lines in this game than Kevin Conroy, just because the Joker talks that much more. This game had a 21-month development cycle, which I think is crazy for the quality that came out of it. The biggest thing that kept getting worked on was the combat system. Originally thought out to be a rhythm game. Think of something like Guitar Hero, where 2D colored circles would crash into each other, allowing you to time your punches and counters. This ended up kind of evolving into what we have now, and I praise the Lord for it. Also, a little fun fact about the cape. It has over 700 animations and was the job of one man for almost 2 years in the development cycle. I'm very glad we got someone so devoted to it because that cape is very stunning. There was also a ton of content that actually ended up being cut from the game, like Mr. Freeze. They didn't believe he would fit into the narrative when his motives aren't around Batman or helping any of the other villains. A garden maze controlled by Poison Ivy, which housed the Mad Hatter in the center, was also considered, but inevitably taken out because they didn't believe it matched the game's tone. The game map was going to be a lot larger originally, allowing fast travel with the Batmobile and the Batwing. Batman's design was also heavily inspired by Jim Lee's take on him in the comics. The game's vibe was overall going for a goal of comics and a hyper-realism hybrid. And the goal with Arkham Asylum itself was to make the structure as insane as the people it houses, with each different wing giving a different sort of vibe. For example, the infirmary being a horror-stylish fear element based section, and your main church area being your gothic and traditional Gotham kind of area, while maximum security was supposed to be very claustrophobic and make people feel enclosed. Another fun fact would be that there was originally a Wii version of the game planned. This ended up getting scrapped in development as well, as there really wasn't enough power to run this game on the Wii. Batman was also originally going to have an armored suit just like the one you kind of unlock at the end of the game, only it was going to change things like the upgrade system as well as the combat. Doing so, you would upgrade different parts of gear, which would upgrade different attributes. So your gauntlets would be more damage oriented and your chest plate be the overall armor. They had also considered a much more colorful suit, but ended up abandoning that idea as well. The Joker was also originally going to look like a mad doctor, with Harley Quinn matching his vibe. Joker actually had a smile very similar to Heath Ledger's, but because of that, they ended up cutting it because they didn't want gamers confusing the two worlds. Harley Quinn originally had her jester mask, which they ended up shifting from a nurse costume over to a leather colorful hybrid, back to a nurse and leather hybrid where they cut the mask entirely. And that's pretty much the final product that we got in the game. There are also many other characters who had different appearances initially, and it would have been really cool to see some of those in those 3D models. Also, from a developer's leaked hard drive, there were many files found of other collectibles than the Riddler trophies, such as Joker spray cans, Two-Face coins, Killer Croc scales, and many more. It also seems there were considerations for some sort of planned online multiplayer or co-op. These can even be still found in the game's files. Now, the reason I brought up the Dark Knight game is because that cancellation brought a lot of spotlight to Arkham specifically. WB's focus really changed from that all the way into this brand new game. I also do believe having 2 Batman games in that span of time would have probably made Arkham Asylum's impact a lot less. But anyways, I do want to talk about that graphic novel I mentioned earlier. The Arkham Asylum novel is honestly really dark, but there are some similarities here and there that are to take note of, like the Joker getting control of Arkham Asylum and making sure Batman is only there by himself with him. Throughout the story, Joker makes Batman play games and fight other villains in his rogues gallery around the asylum. Sound familiar? Now, Batman kind of brutalizes them throughout the story, and the whole concept is that Batman may be as insane as the people he puts in the asylum. In fact, in one part of the story, Joker does so much damage to the Batman, he actually has to stab through his hand to get himself out of shock. It's pretty hardcore. There's even a moment where Batman gets stabbed by a big steer, as well as stabbing Killer Croc, where I actually think he kind of kills him almost, and Batman is very lethally injured. Then think of this world's Quincy Sharp getting on Batman and attacking him and trying to finish the job that Amadeus Arkham set up. Batman had to plead to another scientist there to save him, and the scientist killed their colleague. And at the end of it all, Batman grabs Two-Face's coin, which is to decide if he were to leave the asylum alive or leave the asylum dead. Two-Face flips the coin, and inevitably Batman gets to leave alive. Interesting though is the side that Two-Face landed on should have been what killed him. And they did go over some of the methods with Two-Face earlier. They basically took away his coin, gave him dice, split him into multiple different personalities. So this was kind of to be either some sort of resolution to make Harvey Dent seem whole again and make his own decision. I don't really know what they were trying to do. It's mainly up to the reader. And the reason I went so in-depth into the ending there is to show that these are very different stories still, but they share a lot of similarities. Amadeus still is Mad Dog, which kills his wife and his kid, and he overall goes crazy and gets admitted to the same asylum he built. There are many parallels, and if you're a Batman fan that likes the grittier stuff, I would check it out. It's really dark. But to wrap things up in development, the game was coasting very smoothly, and Rocksteady started playing with the ideas of a sequel. This is where we get the secret room and the idea of Arkham City, where they planted, kind of unknowingly. And this room is actually so hard to find that the developers had to leak it themselves. Now that's pretty much a summary of how the game came to be. It was really a perfect storm and the perfect amount of passion from the people creating it. I will say WB did a really good job of finding the right people for the job. And I'm also very curious on what that Dark Knight game would have looked like. It is nice though we got a Dark Knight skin finally in Arkham Knight all those years later.
I need my game back. I can't believe this. Where is she? Where's the game? I'm Batman.
Dude, I'm sorry, no one really cares that much about the canceled game.
Better watch your mouth, man. I'm coming at you. Vengeance for Gotham. Justice for Gotham.
I'd take Arkham over that game any day of the week, no questions asked. Anyways, this was a different type of video from what I normally make, so if you did enjoy, please let me know down in the comments or if you have anything to add. And yeah, like I said, if you liked it, consider liking and subscribing, as there should be more stuff like this. I also do plan on live streaming a lot more here on the channel, so join the family. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you all more, hopefully about this too. And yeah, I'll see you next time on The Pixel Critic.
Just gotta check your prisoner, Officer Bowles.
Whatever, just be quick.
Only following procedure. Well, patient seems to be in satisfactory condition. Looks like he suffered minor lacerations.